right. Share results. There you go. And okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. It is 6 p.m., at least here in Vienna, I guess, lunch break in New York City. And if you're joining us from somewhere else, welcome. So we cannot hear you, we cannot see you, and it is supposed to be like that, just so that you know. And just to make sure that you're in the right place, this is a pitch training workshop, and we have a plan of about an hour more or less, where we're gonna discuss a couple of things, a couple of theory, and I'm gonna open the space for anybody who would like to pitch. Now, obviously, we have time constraints and there's certain rules about the pitch. So just think about it. Maybe you are thinking that you may pitch or not. I hope you get motivated along the way. Now, we do have some limited spots because otherwise we'll be here the whole afternoon. So that's not the way to go. But if you are here today, if you find yourself struggling, I see that some of you would like to have your own business one day. Maybe you already have your business and you struggle to communicate it to others. Maybe you're interested in collecting some funding, getting some funding later down the road. It doesn't matter, because what you are going to learn today is actually something that you can use not only when building a business, but actually when pitching any type of idea out there, whether you're applying for a job, whether you're trying to present a project, whatever it is. I'm going to give you a very simple tool that is going to make it easy for you to put together a pitch, regardless of the situation and the context. So I'm really excited, but I know that public speaking and pitching and selling can be very, very frustrating. So if you, whenever you have to put together a pitch, if you feel like this lady right there, where you feel overwhelmed, stressed, you don't know what to say, how to make sure that you're within the time frame, how to be interested, if you feel like this lady, whenever you have to put a pitch together, then this workshop is for you. Any of you feel like this? Let me see in the chat. Let's see if any of you actually feel like this whenever you have to put together a pitch. Just say it in the chat right there. But definitely, you're not alone. Pitching is extremely stressful. You got a lot of pressure. You want to achieve something. You want to get either funding, you want to get maybe an employee, you want to make a sale, whatever it is, it can be very frustrating. And so it is very easy to end up like this lady, because pitching is not only something that you do to investors. Actually, pitching is something that you do every time you have to present yourself, whenever you have to present your business. You actually are all the time pitching. And I hear it very often. People say, well, I don't like to sell. I don't like to try to convince somebody to buy my products. I feel like a used car salesman. Well, it doesn't matter, because believe it or not, you are pitching all the time. Every time you ask your parents for permission to go to somewhere, or you used to at least, you are pitching. Every time you're trying to convince your friends to go with you to some kind of party or whatever, you are pitching. So we are constantly pitching. Now, I found about this the hard way. My name is Juan Guerra, and today actually I moderate startup events, and I'm constantly working with entrepreneurs here in Vienna. I work with a lot of accelerator programs, delivering workshops for their startups. I also coach one-on-one founders so that when they get on the stage, they're able to communicate their idea in a simple way, creating interest and persuading their audience to take action. Now, it wasn't always like this. About 8 years ago, I actually had to deliver a presentation myself. It was just a 5-minute presentation, but oh my God, for 2 days, I was so stressed. I couldn't speak in public. I was so stressed about the idea of standing in front of others and just presenting. Actually, to this day, I remember that particular presentation, I had even less people that are right now in this workshop. I was so stressed. I asked a friend of mine to go with me because she had delivered that presentation before. So it was just like moral support. She said she would come with me as long as I would deliver the presentation, that she would not do that presentation for me. So the day comes and we go up there, and it was at the university. The professor says, well, you need to start. And I start in front of everybody there. And my mind just went blank. I could barely hear. My heartbeat was so loud. My hands were so wet and I could barely see. And I just tried to say something to the audience there. My voice didn't really come out. I was like, hello, everybody. My name is Juan, and I'm here to talk about something. And I just little by little just got the space got heavier and heavier. The people in the audience look at me, and I tell you, like, I have their faces printed in my head. Like, they're looking at me like, oh my God, poor guy. Please don't die in front of us. And I almost did. Actually, it got to the point where I didn't know what else to say. My friend had to jump in, deliver the presentation for me. And we walk out of that room, and it's like I just came out of a trance. And and it was, I just realized that in that spot, I just went through one of the worst experiences anybody can go through. I just experienced public speaking. There are many people that say actually that they rather die than deliver a presentation. Well, I promised myself that I knew that I wanted to have my own business, and I knew that if I was going to succeed, I needed to be able to communicate my ideas effectively. And so that was something that was going to hold me back. So on that day, I made a promise to myself to improve my public speaking skills. And I went on and I took every single opportunity I had to speak in public. And little by little, I got better and better and better. And actually, people recognize it. And I started getting invited to more than 10 countries. I've been anywhere from Georgia, the country, to Norway. I live in Austria. I mean, more than 10 places, spoken in front of 7,000 people. And it's all because I pushed myself to develop the skills. Today, I run what is called Skills of Life, and I want to support people master their communication skills. I know that it doesn't matter how hard you work. If you don't have the ability to communicate your ideas effectively, you are going to hold yourself back. And while communication skills don't guarantee success, they can definitely hold you back from moving forward and achieving what you're looking for. So Skills of Life is a public speaking school for entrepreneurs, freelancers, professionals that are dedicated to moving the world forward. If you want to learn more about it, just simply go to skillsoflife.net and you'll find more resources there to help you simplify your message, to help you master the stage so that you can communicate ideas effectively. And with that, we find ourselves here, Pitch Training Workshop. Now, who of you know a show called Shark Tank? Let me see in the chat. Let's see, we're all salesperson. Where are you located? Actually, I am in Vienna, Austria. So I'm 6 hours, well, I don't know where you are, Christopher, but we are in Vienna, which is 6 p.m. You pitch products and stuff, right? Well, yes, I pitch my own workshops and my services, but I help people pitch their businesses so that they can get funding and grow and sell to customers. So yeah, so Shark Tank, if you're in Germany, it's called Die Höhle der Löwen, or in Austria, it's 5 Minuten, 5 Millionen. So many countries out there have a version of this show, but Shark Tank, this is a place where people come, pitch ideas, and then these entrepreneurs who are investors judge them and decide to invest or not. And there's one guy in the jury called Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Nice Guy. And he analyzed that 100% of those that get funding on the show have three things. And the one that stuck out the most for me was obviously the one that had to do with communication. He saw that 100% of those that get funding in the show are able to do so because the entrepreneur was able to explain the opportunity in 90 seconds or less. And so when we talk about pitching, and this is one of the things that I see entrepreneurs struggle the most, they focus on trying to bring all that information, all that knowledge into a way that makes sense to others, rather than start the other way around. And that's why this training focuses on the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch is pretty much that 30 seconds, 1 minute, 90 seconds or less pitch that allows you to create interest and actually get more time with that person that you're trying to convince, whether it is media, whether it is a customer, an employee, an investor, whatever it is. So today we're going to focus on the elevator pitch, and I'm going to give you a couple of tools that are going to allow you to simplify your message. I'm going to give you a structure that is going to make it really easy for you to deliver all the information that you need so that you can actually get that person to take action, okay? And then, best of all, at the end, I'll give you a bit of time so that you can also try it out in front of our audience, okay? Cool. So the elevator pitch. Now, before we get there, I want to get a bit of the expectations from your side. We have quite a diverse audience today. I mean, I see we have quite a group in the, actually in New York City. I had a poll in the beginning, and now we actually have twice as many people as when we finished the poll. So I would like to ask you is, what do you feel you struggle the most when developing your pitch? And either that, or what would you like to learn from today's workshop so that I can make sure that we cover those elements within our session today. So just go ahead, find the chat, type it in there. What do you expect to gain from today, or something that you're struggling with when developing your pitch? Let's see, and I'll give you a bit of time. Just want to make sure I'm able to make it as relevant as possible for you before we go deep into the content in a little bit. But let's see, I struggle explaining my strengths in the pitch. Okay. Making sure pitch is fluid, not too wordy, condensing, find the right balance between surprise, entertainment, and information. Have you successfully pitched for any projects? Actually, yeah, I have a production company and I'm pitching to customers all the time. And that's actually one of the things that I do. So I haven't pitched for funding. I didn't really have the need. I decided to bootstrap. So I pitched to customers. I find that more rewarding than for investors. I don't know. It depends on your strategy. I do not know how to find the key message, what should be included. Is there a lot to tell? Communicate my technical product to business people in an entertaining way. Wow, that's gonna be a good one. How to overcome my nerves when speaking, standing up. Well, yeah, I mean, we don't go into detail. We don't go into detail about actual public speaking. But I can tell you that practice is going to help you. Now, the stress doesn't go away, but what it does is that you learn to actually deal with it and canalize all that energy into your presentation. So I answered that right away because we definitely not cover that today. If you have more questions, we can always talk about that at the end when it comes to public speaking. Cool, but thank you very much. I see that. So we got this idea of how to simplify my thoughts, how to simplify my message, how to make sure that I'm able to get all this complex information through. Well, there are three things that we're gonna cover today, three essential things that are related to putting together and delivering a persuasive pitch. The first thing is that actually you have been cursed. Yes, you have been cursed, and this shows automatically the moment that you sit down or are in front of somebody that you want to convince, either to support your project or your idea somehow. So you have been cursed, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. I'm also going to give you a very exciting tool on how to create interest so that you can get your audience curious about what you have to say and they actually listen to you. And then last but not least, I'm going to give you a tool, a structure actually, that is going to help you develop a persuasive message. But before we get there, I'll show you how to simplify your pitch so that you get that the essence of your idea so that people can actually understand what you're telling them. Okay. So as we move along, feel free to put questions already in the chat because then I can always check that later. But what I encourage you right now is feel free to take out a notebook or maybe open something like some other screen with a Word document or something like that. Feel free to take screenshots, but in general, my slides don't have that much content. So feel free to write down notes, and then if you have any questions, just put it directly on the chat so that when I go into questions, they're already there, because it takes a little bit of time as I stop and then you write. Okay. All right, let's jump right into this, and there's no need to go around it because I want to give you directly tools to persuade. But there is one thing I mentioned, and that is that you have been cursed. What does that mean? Well, the thing is that you are an expert. And as you fell in love with what you do, you started to go deeper and deeper into it, trying to learn more about it, whether it is your industry, your product, your competition, how it works, how to make it better. And so the more you learn about this, the more of an expert that you become, the further away you are from where your customer currently is. Because your customer, your listener, it's actually at a place where you used to be before you fell in love with your product, before you discovered that this is what you wanted to focus on, before you develop a passion for it. And so you have been going so deep into it that now you don't remember anymore, you don't know anymore how it is to be where your customer is right now. And that's actually called the expert's curse. It is that you know so much about a particular product or industry that you don't know anymore how it is to simplify it. You don't know how it is not to know about that product. And that's very, very challenging. That's actually one of the reasons why when you put together your pitch or your message, you make it really complex because you feel that everything around it is important. And so you need to make sure that you tell them about this, and they also need to know about that. And so you see that everything is actually important, and it becomes really hard to simplify and eliminate things that they don't need to know about yet. That's on the one side. On the other side, to make it even harder, it's something that I discovered as I was reading the book from Oren Klaff, and you can see on the top left corner, it's called Pitch Anything. And I extremely recommend you this book. Oren Klaff is a seller, he's a fundraiser, he's based in California. And whenever there was a project that people needed fundraising, they would call him, he goes out there, gets the $1 million or gets the $1 billion, whatever it is, and he gets a cut from that. And so he wrote a book called Pitch Anything. And in his book talks about something very particular in the beginning. And it is that, well, he met with a cognitive psychologist that to try to explain to him, why is it that whenever he delivers his pitch, people react in different ways? And what she told him was that, look, I see that you know how to put a persuasive pitch, but the problem is that you don't understand how the brain works. And it is something like this. When you sit down to put together your presentation, you're using a part of the brain called the neocortex. This is the part of the brain responsible for managing all this complex information, all the data, logical facts. And so you're processing all this information, you sit down and you start putting together your pitch. The problem is that your listener is really not listening to the neocortex. At least not yet, but in the beginning, they're actually listening to you with something that he calls in the book, the crocodile brain. This is the primitive part of the brain, the oldest part of the brain that is actually trying to figure out if you are a threat or not. And in today's world, it's more like, oh my God, is this presentation going to be interesting? Is this something that is relevant to me? Should I just take out my phone and scroll on Instagram? Should I just put this webinar on mute and watch YouTube videos. I mean, your crocodile brain is going to decide if you should pay attention or not. Should I stay or should I go, right? And so the first thing that we need to be aware is that our listener is not there yet. They're not paying attention to us with the neocortex. So on the one side, you have the expert's curse, and then you sit down and put together your presentation and you're using the neocortex, and then your listener, your customer is not there yet. So the first thing that we need to do in our strategy is target the crocodile brain, get them to listen to us, win over, get their attention, get them curious, okay? If we manage to do that, now we're gonna move forward to the middle brain. And it is in the middle brain that the person is going to assess us. It's gonna evaluate us in the sense of, do we have enough experience to talk about this topic? Or do we have the authority? Pretty much, they're gonna assess if we have the social proof. If we convince our customer, our listener, that we have enough experience to be talking about this topic, that we know enough about it to be qualified to speak about what we're saying and what we're talking about, then finally now the person is gonna listen to us with the neocortex. Now, keep in mind, obviously, that you have many different types of customers. Not necessarily everybody's going to be looking for your product. Actually, you have 3 types of customers. You have the customer that knows he has a problem and knows how to solve it, so they know what they're looking for. You have the customer that knows he has a problem but is not sure on how to solve it, so they're shopping around. And third, you have the customer that doesn't know he has a problem, so therefore they're not looking for a solution. You, as a small business, you don't want to waste time with any of those 2. You definitely want to target those that know have a problem and know how to solve it. And hopefully that thing that they're looking for, it's your product and service. So even though they might know what they're looking for, it could be that your product doesn't fit into the way that they want to solve their problem. So just keep in mind that yes, this is a strategy, but it still doesn't mean that it's going to connect with every single person. So you need to clearly be aware of who exactly is your target audience so that you know how to tickle their crocodile brain, so that you know how to get their interest. And that leads to the next part. So, okay, great, Juan. I see that I got a strategy. I know I need to target the crocodile brain. Then I position myself. And then finally, this person is listening to me. So how do I create interest, right? Great. Thank you very much for asking, because I'm going to give you a very particular tool that is, once you figure out exactly who your customer is, it's going to be really, really easy for you to get their attention. Okay. And it goes like this. I discovered this from Derek Halpern from Social Triggers. You can check his website, socialtriggers.com, but it's very, very interesting. And he calls it the information gap. And what you need to do is create a gap between what the person knows and what you know. This is sort of like when you're scrolling down YouTube and then you're looking at the titles of the videos and you see one that gets your attention and then you click on it. Well, what that title did, sort of like that clickbait, yeah? What that title did is that it created an information gap between what you know and what the person who made the video knows. And so in order for you to close that information gap, now you gotta watch that video. Yeah? This is the same thing with a blog post. The title of that blog post is gonna capture your attention, is gonna create an information gap between what you know and what the article knows. So in order to close that, you're gonna want to read that article. And you're gonna find this pattern everywhere around you, where whenever somebody just drops a line that gets your attention, that's because they've been able to capture, your interest by creating an information gap between what you know and what they know. And I like to use an example of somebody who came a while back to one of my meetups. went on stage, and he really nailed it. Like he used it to very nicely, because you need to understand your customer enough, or at least you need to be aware of what people expect, or assumptions that you have, or some kind of general knowledge. So let me show you the example, and then I go deeper into it. So he comes on stage, and I show him, okay, it's your time, go ahead. And he starts, hello everybody, my name is Michael, and I shoot people for a living. And guess what? People love it. The more I shoot them, the more they like it, to the point where they actually recommend me to their friends to go and shoot them. And I love it. And today I make a living shooting people. Hello, everybody. My name is Michael, and I'm a photographer. Everybody in the room was like, oh my God, that was so good. And the reason why it's so good is because he used it in a way. So I shoot people for a living. So we know that this is something that we can relate. We know what kind of professions are out there. We know what people do for a living, and so he knows our assumptions. And when he says I shoot people for a living, it automatically rocks the way we see the world. Because wait, what did you say? That's not possible. That's not a profession. I don't know about that profession. The moment you find yourself asking those questions, he got your interest. He got you. So now you want to listen further to try and to close that gap, to understand what he means by shooting people for a living, and how is it. And then obviously he doesn't let go. He creates that mysterious approach where he keeps that interest. He pushes it forward and tells us more about it. People love it, and they recommend me to their friends, and they pay me to shoot them. Like, what do you mean? What kind of profession is that? Until finally he tells us, I am a photographer. And you see the feeling that you get once you figure out what that profession is. Now you can rest at peace. Now you know, and the gap has been closed. And TV shows do this a lot, especially at the end. For example, they open what is called an open loop, where they give you some information about what is going to happen next, and now you need to watch. Well, this is something like that. So what you want to do is that you create an open loop in the beginning with the information gap, like he did, and so you gotta listen, and then you close that gap, and then you open another one, so that the people keep on listening. So you use this consistently to keep the attention of the people. Keep in mind that if you say something that is too far away from what people know, or from what your target audience knows, it's going to fall short. It's not going to hook them. If it is too close, then it's not going to be powerful enough for them to want to listen anymore. So it's a bit of trial and error, where you need to better understand your audience, and then see what works and what doesn't. But if you see people that are asking you automatically, what does that mean? That's feedback that they are interested and they want to know more. Okay, cool. So the information gap, use it to create interest and get your audience curious. Sort of like a mysterious way about what you do, but it's not clear. Now, because you have rock their assumptions on their world, now they gotta listen further. Cool. Now you have their attention. We managed to win over the crocodile brain. We're able to move up to the middle brain. And this is where we're going to position ourselves. And the best way to position yourself without having to brag or to just talk about yourself is by explaining. You have two options. Either you explain how do you know about the problem, or you talk about a vision, a purpose, or something that you're trying to build. And that's how you discover the problem. So you need to tell me, how do you know this exists? So it could be, for example, in my case, for the last 6 years. So let's use my case and this workshop. So over the last 6 years, I've been working with startups, with startup entrepreneurs and founders, coaching them to deliver presentations so that they can persuade customers, investors, and so on. And I've noticed that they really struggle to simplify their message, and they are in the end confusing their audience, and so therefore they hold themselves back. So it is because over the last 6 years, I've been doing this, I've noticed that there is this common problem. So it's not about me bragging that I've been working for the last 6 years. No, it's actually showing you that there is this problem out there. And this is great way for you to position yourself, build value and authority, position yourself as an expert without bragging about yourself. And then automatically you beautifully transition into the problem. That's one way. The other way could be that you could say something that you believe in, and it's like this big vision of your cause. So in my case is I believe that failing to develop your communication skills is going to hold you back from achieving success. And so because I'm striving to that, to help people master their communication skills, I've noticed that there is this problem. So you can use those two ways to position yourself without making the conversation about you, but actually these are things that then people say, okay, this is how he knows about the problem, or actually that's a very interesting movement or cause, and I would love to be part of that. That's interesting. Like if you want to make that happen, obviously you're gonna understand or uncover that this problem exists, and actually that's something that I believe too, so I will help you out with that. Okay, so that's how you can position yourself. Now you have convinced the middle brain that you have the knowledge and the background to be talking about what you're talking about, and finally you got the person right where you want them with the neocortex, and you can deliver the rest of your presentation or the rest of your pitch. Now, here is where I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle. And the reason is because the expert curse fails you every single time. Whenever you have to put together a pitch, you have to explain your business in 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever time limit you have. The approach normally is that you have all this information that is super important and it is relevant for everybody to know about. So you try to sort of like package it, put it all together into like 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is the time that you have. And the challenge is that obviously you come up with a pitch that many people don't understand because you have too many things and the wording is complicated and they cannot connect with, and you're trying to connect with every single person in the audience. So what I encourage you is, instead of trying to package everybody, let's wipe the table clean, okay? And instead of trying to bring everything together, let's actually start from zero and build it up, okay? And for that, I have a tool that I discovered from a friend of mine. His name is Lior Shoham. He's based out of Tel Aviv in Israel. And he calls it PSI. Now, this stands for three things, and they are problem, solution, and what do you think is what do you think is the I standing for? Let's see in the comment section. Okay. So let's see, problem, solution, and implementation, innovation, intention, innovation. No. So PSI stands for problem, solution, and impact. You have no idea how many times I see somebody pitch what their problem is, what's the solution, and they forget to say what's going to be the impact. What are you going to achieve when you solve that problem? And the thing is that it's really clear for you as an entrepreneur to know what the impact is going to be from that solution. But for your customer who is experiencing the problem right now and has never lived without that problem, they have no idea. Now they may have an idea of where they want to go, but they don't know exactly if this is how it's going to look like. So it is your role as the business owner who's pitching the product to show the customer, the listener, how life is going to be once they solve their problem. And so that's why it's really important that you tell them what's the impact. Why should they solve that problem? What are they going to achieve when the problem is not there anymore? So problem, solution, impact. And that's why this tool is so cool, because if we wipe the table clean and we start from zero, then we're going to focus on just three things: problem, solution, impact. Now, instead of trying to pack everything together, we start from zero by focusing on three things, and then we build our pitch from there. But we first make sure that the essence is clear, and then we can add everything else. This way, you can go from a 30-second pitch to a 20-minute, to a 10-minute pitch, to a 20-minute pitch, whatever it is that you need it to be. By the way, it should never be more than 20 minutes. There's a reason why TED Talks are up to 18 minutes long. People cannot hold their attention longer than that. If you have a meeting of 1 hour, you have 17 minutes, up to 20 minutes to deliver your pitch. The rest should be the Q&A because they're interested and want to know more. So PSI, problem, solution, impact. Now, the cool thing about this tool is that not only shows you the three things that you need to focus on, it even gives you the wording to make it easier for you to develop your pitch. And it goes like this: you know how, what we do, so that. Okay? And let's use the case once again of this webinar, of this workshop. You know how entrepreneurs struggle to simplify their message? What I do is, through my workshops and coaching, guide them through a process that allows them to simplify their message so that they can create interest and persuade more people to buy from them. I just clearly explained the problem, the solution, and the impact. You know the problem that you're solving, you know how to solve it, and why should I solve it in less than 30 seconds. That's why I love this tool, because it really helps you to start from zero and build your whole pitch upon these three pillars. You have no idea how many times I talk to entrepreneurs and even these things are not clear. So I'm really excited, and I hope that that you definitely implement this tool next time that you develop your pitch. So PSI, problem, solution, impact. Now, there is one limitation though with this tool, and that is that this technically it's not a pitch. Because in order for this to be a pitch, you need one thing that is not here. And what do you think that is? Let me check. Let's see, what do you need for PSI to be a pitch? How do you make that from a statement where you cover the problem, solution, impact into a pitch? And that's completely right, the call to action. Yes, so the reason why PSI is not a pitch is because we don't have a call to action. You know, every interaction, every time that you're in front of somebody and you're trying to present an idea, you must have a call to action. So actually what you need to do is start from the end. You should ask yourself, what is the ultimate goal from this interaction? What is the action or feeling or thought that I want my customer, my listener to feel, do at the end, the moment I stop talking? And you need to be very clear, and it needs to be one thing. Normally in an elevator pitch, which is what we're working on today, it should be pretty much get more time. You want to get more time with that person, maybe go to a private setting, you want to get another meeting, but that's how it is for an elevator pitch. Time, most likely is that you want to get them interested so that you can get more time with that person and then explain everything else, okay? If you have more time, maybe you're at a networking event, maybe the goal is to get a customer. Maybe the goal is to get an employee, to get the media to talk about you, whatever it is, yeah? But you gotta figure out what is that one thing, okay? And you have to make it clear. It's not like, okay, if you wanna know more about this, go on our website. Nobody goes on your website, nobody's gonna check that, okay? So you need to be very clear about that call to action. So figure that out first, and then go ahead and build your pitch. So yes, we're missing a call to action. So let's look, if we follow what we have discussed so far, then we're gonna have a very clear structure for what is gonna be a very persuasive elevator pitch. First thing we're gonna do is target the crocodile brain by creating interest. Then we go ahead and master over the middle brain by positioning ourselves and transitioning into the problem, solution, impact, and then finally we have a call to action. And there you have it, a unique structure for an exciting elevator pitch that is going to not only simplify your message, but it's going to make it really easy for your customers to get interested and understand what you're communicating to them. And then last but not least, see clearly what are the next steps. If you use all these, so normally the PSI, problem solution impact, should be somewhere about 30 seconds. And one thing that you have to keep in mind, don't try to sound smart. You don't need to overwhelm like with complicated information. If you have a complicated concept, a complicated tool, a good way that you can simplify this is obviously by using an analogy. And there is something that I got this from Russell Brunson, where he says that you could use a kind of like bridge. So you could say what your concept is. You could say that complicated words or what your technology is based on. And then what you say is, this is kind of like, and then you could use a story that people can relate to. You remember in your childhood when you struggled to stop playing video games. Well, what this does is that allows whatever the stories that could relate to your customer. And so if you have something complicated, you need to simplify it by turning it into, don't be afraid of oversimplification. And you could use that kind of like bridge to connect with a story that people can relate to. But here you have a structure that it should be about 45 seconds, about 1 minute. I mean, it depends how deep you go into every aspect. And it's going to depend on the time that you have and the context as well. But in the end, you have a structure right there, very persuasive elevator pitch structure. Okay, so does any of you would like to give it a try? Would you like to give the structure a try? And in the meantime, as I ask this, I'm gonna check the chat and I'm gonna check the Q&A. I see we got some stuff there. But if you would like to give it a try, yeah, just let me know. I give you a bit of time. I put back the structure so that you can work something out. This is just going on the go. So just to give it a try, it doesn't have to be perfect. It shouldn't be perfect, okay? So just let me know. But in the meantime, I check here the Q&A. Let's see. Okay. What's in it for the listener? What's in it for the listener? Well, they get rid of their problem, and you show them by showcasing when you say the impact. What do you think about telling a vision where the world is a better place rather than focusing on the problem? So it is for the vision. Yes, but you gotta get them interested first. So, the world is a better place is too vague. It's too vague to connect with me because it doesn't resonate with me. Now, the way you want to make the world a better place may resonate with me because you may believe in something that I believe, and therefore I am attracted to working with you. If you ever heard of Simon Sinek Golden Circles, he explains to us how people today want to do business with organizations and businesses that believe what they believe, not because of the company, but because I want to achieve my goal. I want to achieve my vision, right? So if I know what my purpose is, I'm going to be attracted to doing business with organizations that have a similar purpose to the one I have. So a statement like make the world a better place, it's quite vague. So you need to get closer to that person. You see, one of the challenges I see is that we see that our ideas are relevant for everybody, right? But unfortunately, they're not. And the more you try to convince everybody, the less relevant you're going to be. So because you in the beginning, you don't have the resources to reach the masses. There is this thing called the theory of diffusion of innovation, and it was developed in 1962 by Everett Rogers. And what it says that in every market, we have 5 distinct groups. We have the innovators, we have the early adopters, we have the early majority, we have the late majority, and we have the laggards. The innovators are the ones who stood up in line for 5 days to buy the next iPhone when it came out back in the day, the first iPhone. The early adopters are the ones who, okay, went 2 weeks later and bought it. The early majority are the ones who went 6 months later and bought the iPhone. The late majority are the ones who got an iPhone when they couldn't, like they had to extend their contract expired, they needed to get a new phone, they got it. And the laggards are the ones who don't have an iPhone yet. They're still using their flip phone with touch phones or with buttons, or they're still on the BlackBerry, or the whole reason why they got an iPhone is because that phone doesn't work anymore and they can't buy it nowadays. So they got an iPhone, right? The thing is that the early majority, which is the mass market, it's not going to buy your product if the early adopters don't use your product first. And the early adopters are not going to buy your product if your innovators are not using it yet. So when you develop your pitch, when you develop your message, you need to target the innovators. That's exactly what Apple did. Even though they're a multinational company, they target the innovators because they needed them to buy their products, to stand in line, because then the early adopters and the early majority sees what's going on. Those that are not willing to do those things, but they see that some people did it, and so therefore there must be a good thing, because the innovators are the ones that are going to spread the word for you. So you can't try to be generic. You need to go after those people. Obviously, trial and error. You need to find who they are within your market and within your products. Who are those that not only know they have a problem and know how to solve it, they know how to solve it. That's the thing that they have been waiting for, and that's your product. Like those that knew that they needed a touch screen, and then when the touchscreen phone came out, they saw Apple. Okay, that's the solution. So don't be afraid to narrow and exclude people from your pitch, because that's exactly how you're going to succeed. The more diluted your message is, the harder it is for people to understand and position you, and the harder it will be for them to buy your product. CTA is call to action. Okay, Zach. What is in it from the list? Okay, so I keep on listening. So the better place, providing a solution to the listener, new business. No, okay, okay. CTA implied from the rest of the pitch. If not, could you give some examples? A CTA, it's actually, it's very clear call to action. Purchase now, book a call, download our product. So you have 2 types of CTAs. You have a direct call to action, which is buy now. Actually, by now, it's a very clear call to action. Book a call depending on your sales process. And then you have indirect call to actions, which is like, download our guide, subscribe to our newsletter, so that we can continue building a relationship with you and then ask you again to buy later. But a call to action is that if you are, for example, at a networking event and you're presenting there and you're looking for a co-founder, well, your call to action is, and I'm looking for somebody who will be interested in building a business with me. That's your call to action. If you're looking for people with green hair, well, if you or somebody you know has green hair, please introduce me to that person. That's a call to action. So whatever you ask, whatever it is that you need, so define the action that you want people to take at the end. That's your call to action. So a good CTA, a good call to action is something that is clear. You need to be specific and just one, okay? The more you start adding, then people start getting confused on what you want or what they should do next. Instead of, these moments before a pitch when you are so nervous, right? Imagine everybody listens to you and you feel safe and competent. Yeah. Depends on the product. it depends on the product that you want to present. It depends on the audience. Once I know those things, we need to know the destination, which is where do we want to take everybody, where are we starting, and what kind of assumptions do they have, what kind of expectations do they have. So I'll need more content. Only limited spots available. That has to do with scarcity. These are just persuasive triggers that you are driving on your customers so that they take action. Only limited spots, offer available until tomorrow. These kind of things, these are scarcity triggers. One, where in this structure is good to have social proof. The social proof, you mentioned it in the way you position yourself. Okay. So that's and the way you create the proof is by explaining how you know the problem exists. So in my case, over the last 6 years, I've been working with entrepreneurs, hosting startup events, competitions. I've been on the stage, and I help them get investments, get contracts, and I see that they really struggle. So that's how I prove myself, my authority, my experience, and I see really that they struggle with simplifying their message. More and more, they have challenges to put all that information into a simple sentence that they can communicate to others. So that would be a way. So that's where you use social proof. Or if, let's say that you're a student and you don't have that experience, that background where you could say, hey, we just actually went into business 2 weeks ago. Well, that's still relevant because over the last 2 weeks, you have been geeking out about a particular topic, but also at the same time, you could talk about what you believe in. So I want to help people live a more fulfilled life, but that's too vague, right? So I narrowed that and I go into where I focus, and I focus on communication. And so I believe that if you are able to master your communication skills, you will be able to achieve success. Now, it's not that communication skills guarantee success, but not having communication skills will hold you back, right? So now I'm sharing something that I believe in, some philosophy, and those that automatically connect and see that they struggle with communication will be attracted to working with me, because, or those that used to struggle but now they have developed their communication skills and have improved their lives, they're going to see they're going to believe in what I believe. They'll be attracted to doing business with me. So, and I recommend you to check a talk from Simon Sinek called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. About 17 minutes TED Talk. It's on YouTube. How Great Leaders Inspire Action. Simon Sinek, you can look it up there. You'll find a lot. So I thought social proof would be relevant when talking about impact. Well, that goes deep. That's later. When people tell you how, when people get interested in what you do, then they're gonna start wondering, okay, that's great, but would this work for me? That's great, but this works for other people. So you need to show that the process. So in this case, I would share, like, once you're interested, yeah. Now, once you start wondering, okay, would this work for me? Then I use that social proof to convince you. Then I would talk to you about how I help out this student startup in Bulgaria to, out of 30 teams, win, and then they managed to land on Bloomberg TV, the local Bloomberg TV. They flew to Belgium to pitch there. They got cash investment, all that because of my developed process and system that I use to coach people. But you see, I don't go into detail there because our interaction right now focuses on this pitch. So you need to more or less like upsell. You need to figure out where is the person at what stage, and then deliver that information that is relevant at that stage. If I come in here and start telling you about this startup that I pitch and so on, and those guys over there, you don't care about those things yet. First, I need to sell you the structure first. I need to show you that you've been cursed first. I need to show you the process that you need to follow. So you need to be patient and figure out what are the steps to get the person at the end. So That's how it goes. I hope that gives you a better overview, um, Zach, regarding social proof and when to use what. You know, it also depends. If somebody introduced me to you and says, "Hey, this is Juan. He's the guy who helped that startup win that competition," that's already social proof. I've been interested. You've already been pre-framed by something else. So there is more to do to just your pitch, also how you're presented, the setting where you are. You know, if we're just meeting at a bar and just casual conversation, or if we're meeting at a networking event, or actually you came to buy a product at a store, like it really depends. There's so much influence in this. Okay. So yeah, so I'll start wrapping it up. I have, though, I see a Q&A. Oh, okay, I answered. All right. So done. All right. So obviously, wait. All right. So pretty much I answered your questions there. I'm gonna move on. I don't see that people would like to pitch or something. I don't know. Or give it a try. So I'm gonna move on and with this structure and just one thing, yeah. So it could be obviously that you don't have the chance even to deliver a 90 seconds pitch, right? Let's say that you're crossing the street, you're somewhere else. So what do you take out from this structure to still achieve your goal? So let's say that you don't have the 80, 70 seconds that would need you to go through this process, right? So what do? Well, the first thing that you're going to take out is positioning yourself, okay? So you take that out so that you have a shorter presentation. Let's say that you still have too much content and you have less time. Well, then you take away the impact. All right. So you create interest and then you go into the problem, solution, and then call to action. Let's say that you have even less time. All right. You take away the solution. Let's say that you have even less time. What do you take out next? What do you think? You have less time. You need to delete one of the create interest, problem, or call to action. What do you take out next? The problem. Yes, that is correct. So you take out the problem. You always, always, absolutely always must create interest and then go for a call to action. But if you don't have that much time, then you merge together the call to action into the part of creating interest and you turn it into a question, all right? I know this startup here in Vienna that they go to conferences and they'll be maybe walking, well, when we used to have events, you know, but they will be walking down the aisle and they see an investor that they want to invest, that they will be interested in approaching. And they were an app about meditation and making people feel more happy. And so they will pass by and they will see the investor and ask one question and that will be their 3-second pitch. And it will be, do you invest in happiness? Simple question. Questions are a very good way to go because they automatically make us feel like we have to respond. They feel like we have to answer. And so it doesn't matter if they say yes or no, they would then have that person, you know, get their attention by responding. So if they say no, they will have an answer prepared. If they say yes, great. Because over the last 3 years, over the last year, we've been working on this. This is something that you'll be interested. So they play around all this stuff. This could also be used at a networking event. If you go and meet somebody and somebody says, hey, you know, Mary, what do you do? And so you're gonna go through this process, obviously more in a conversation style. So you could first create interest. So, you know, but you gotta commit to this. You gotta sell the idea. So most of the time we say, well, it's complicated, you know, because I'm doing all these things, or you know, this is something that many entrepreneurs in the beginning, they take advantage of the fact that they're in front of the person, so they have more time to explain it. But you should definitely never say it's complicated. You should just prepare something that would get their attention. So I help people live more fulfilled lives, or I help people master their communication skills so that they stop holding themselves back from the success that they want. It's something that creates enough interest is that, mysterious way of, well, what do you mean? So that the person asks, how is that possible? How do you do that? What does that mean? The moment they ask that, then you got their interest. Now you have more time and deliver the rest of the presentation. And with that being said, we come to the end of our workshop, which we have seen the expert's curse. Keep in mind that the further you go into a particular topic, the harder it will be for you to remember how it was when you didn't know that much about it, which is where your customers and listeners are. So you need to take a step back and try to figure out where are they, yeah? Remember, first, when you sit down, you're gonna use the neocortex, keep that in mind. So you gotta go after their crocodile brain. You need to create interest. Use the information gap. Also, other ways that you can create interest are quotes. You could use questions. You could use some kind of statement. I mean, there are many, many ways, also data. There are many ways that you can create interest. It's not only the information gap, but the information gap works quite good. And from there, you position yourself, which then transitions into bringing the person into the neocortex, use PSI, and then finally you have the call to action. And that's how you put together a simple yet powerful elevator pitch. If you like more resources, I have a guide that from which this webinar is developed. You can find it under that link. Also, if you go to skillsoflife.net, within the blog, you'll find it and you'll be able to get it. So it's going to help you simplify your message using PSI and storytelling so that you can deliver your message to more people. If you would like to take it even further beyond the guide, well, actually, I'm going to be going deeper into all this next in 2 weeks. On the 23rd of June, we have the Business Storytelling Bootcamp, where I'm going to take you actually from the beginning, look into your own story. I'm going to create the process, define what exactly it is that you need to say to that customer so that you can take them in a journey where you answer the biggest concerns, how they see that you actually, your product will help them, and how they're actually gonna see the value that you're providing them. Really exciting. Bootcamp is going to be 3 hours. It's going to be online, and you actually get the recording and all the materials, the downloadable files. Normally this in Vienna happens in person, which is $299, but since it is online, then it's going to be 99 euros per person. If you would like to know more about this, just simply let me know in the comments. Just put in your email and then I'll send you the link. You cannot find this anywhere else on the website. So I'll share the link with those that are interested. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today. It has been a pleasure to be with you and helping you master your elevator pitch. Remember, PSI, problem, solution, impact. Don't make the mistake of forgetting to tell them what they're going to develop by solving that problem. Thank you all for joining us, and I'll see you around. Take care.